Hello and welcome back to TAP, the Awokilumo podcast. And I am here today again with my beautiful co-host.
Oluwakemi Oyedeji.
Hello, Oluwakemi. It's so nice to see you looking beautiful. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you, Valkis. You look good as
All
well.
right, you are welcome. You are welcome. Yes, I'm good, sir. I am doing like amazingly well. So, guys, we are back again with another beautiful episode, and this time again, you should have known by now that one of the reasons, one of the criteria to be here in this room is to be a student of the School of Politics, Policy, and Governance. And I would leave the honor of introducing our guest to the beautiful Oluwakemi. Thank you so much, and let's get right into it.
All right, so who we have today is a man with depth. But I'm not going to introduce him. I want him to introduce himself.
Yeah.
So please listen attentively as he introduces himself. So please, now I'm yielding the floor to our very important, our MVP, our guest today, in person of
Good afternoon, Oluwakemi and Bakes. So my name is Kelechi Onyinke. I'm an architect. That's my discipline. And so I own and run a practice, a design practice in Lagos. It's called Podex Associates. So I love what I do, but beyond what I do, very passionate about change in Nigeria. I'm very passionate about doing things right, about ethical practice, about building a better nation. Very intentional about my life. I also have a few other involvements in leadership in some other areas. I'm also a minister in my youth church, in a youth church in my local parish. So I think that's about me in a nutshell. I'm married and have three wonderful, amazing kids.
All right. So while you're introducing yourself, the truth of the matter is I did little research about you. So what you said about yourself, yes, I know. And in fact, it's very fascinating because I'm very on architecture. I'm very keen on aesthetics. I'm very keen about building. And it is very disheartening that I haven't seen any impressive, any breathtaking design in Nigeria. Buildings like the High Shaped Museum in Dubai, such places that can call for tourist attraction. Or I don't know whether you have seen the work on this Iraq's architect that's Zahad Hadid. Our works are
Hadid,
just
yes.
breathtaking. Yes. So I'm wondering, what is it about our architects in this country? Are they not creative enough? Does the association have a policy that subjects you to a particular design? That should be A shape, square shape. No. So please, can you help with that?
Okay, I would say I'm surprised that you haven't seen buildings that are quite fascinating in Nigeria. I can suggest a few to you.
Okay.
Please do.
You know the National Arts Theatre in Igomu in Lagos. Don't you think that's a
Oh,
nice building?
it is.
Yeah. There's a Nest Oil building in Victoria
Mhm.
Island. There's
Yeah.
also this very fascinating building somewhere in VI. It's called You've seen that. There's the Museo Musa Yar'Adua Center in Abuja. There are quite a few. I mean, they're in different categories of buildings. There are, because there are obviously different building types. There are institutional buildings, there are private homes, there are educational buildings, there are schools. But I would say, since you made reference to Zaha Hadid, one of the things you would also need to understand is not just about the creativity of the architects, it's also about the economy of the country. Some of those buildings that are, very, very outstanding also are very expensive. And so you have to have the clients that are willing to spend that kind of money to do those buildings. So that's part of what you would see. The economy is also reflected in the kind of buildings. But there are quite a few outstanding buildings in Nigeria, to be honest. There's also, you should probably look at, there's this man, what's his name again? Maybe if I remember, I'll mention it to you later. There's this artist, he's quite old now, but he had some really remarkable architectural work. And they're quite a number. I can mention many more, but I'll leave it at this for now.
All right. Thank you very much. You did justice to that. You saved yourself. You saved the architectural work.
But trust me, we're doing great. Trust me, we're not doing badly.
Yes.
So my second question would be, as a trained architect, what do you prefer? I don't know what I know. Definitely, you have works to do with land, urban and regional planning. But what do you prefer as a lasting solution to the flood that is consistently experienced at every slight rainfall in Lagos State?
Shame, I would say it's a big shame. But there are a few things that really are causing this. One of them is poor planning. There's poor planning because to manage flooding, there needs to be, and like you referred to urban design, there needs to be a master plan, tertiary drains, secondary to primary drains, and there should be a master plan around the drainage as a whole. But there's a lot of poor planning. A lot of estates are developed without planning. A lot of roads are even built sometimes without proper design, and so the drainage is not well designed. That's the primary problem. Yeah, but beyond, another thing I'll add too is also weak enforcement of government's plan. Even the existing plans are poorly enforced. So you find that a lot of times the government institutions that should be regulating construction, including infrastructural design, aren't enforcing, aren't supervising correctly, aren't ensuring adherence to the laid down guidelines. So there's all a mess in there, and the infrastructural design is a problem. So, but I'll say that for us to do it, we have to just do what we should have done in the first place and do it right, which is to do a master plan that has a proper drainage design, ensure the channels are free and clear, and it shouldn't be a big deal. We're not the only country that's close to, we're not the only city that's close to the water, so we shouldn't really be having this kind of problems if the right things were done.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Kelechi.
Thank you so much with that. I did not know why the first thing that Oluwakemi did was just to attack the architecture world. Like, you people, we need to show you that you've not been doing well. But then I love the fact that you were able to like save everybody. Like, no, it's not us. It's not us. And I love that. But there is something that I would say baffles me. And that is, why exactly are you here in the School of Politics, Policy and Governance? Because you are an architect. From the knowledge of all that you have shared right now, I know that you love your job. You are in that space. Not like I just did it because my mommy said I should do it. You did it, you are there, and you are doing well. So the question is, why politics? Why policy? Why governance? Why the School of Politics, Policy and Governance?
Yeah, thanks. I really love that question. Thank you very much for that. Yes, I do love what I do, and I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm just enjoying myself, right? But I'm also very passionate about building business systems and just generally making impact.
Oh my God. You
Absolutely.
feel so good about that. So I feel really good about that. And I love the fact that the things that are good, the things that are best for you, like my dad will always say, you will never ever find it comfortable. You always feel like, am I really sure this is the right time? But then there is something I love to actually like keep in mind. The best time was yesterday, and the next best time is this moment that we are having this conversation. And so I'd say that that was a really
Absolutely.
big sacrifice from you to bite the bullet and like, oh, my busy schedule, my whatever, I'm just going to show up here and do what needs to be done. And that's going to take me to a particular, question that you don't know where to get involved from. If you don't know where to get involved from or where to start with, I am sure that with the last 10 months, you now have an idea of where to dive in from, yeah? But then the politics that we have in Nigeria, a number of people calls it a dirty game. And yeah, dirty people play the dirty game. When are we, the clean ones, ever going to even wash it for it to look beautiful again? So what does it take to fix politics? What does it take to stop politics being known as a dirty game? What do you think we are going to need to fix politics beyond SPPG, beyond the learnings, the faculties, the engagements, the community that we have right now? What does it take as individuals to fix the politics of Nigeria in your own perspective?
Well, that's a question that's difficult to answer, but I'll give my perspective of what we can do and where we can start. I think I agree that politics in Nigeria is dirty. In fact, politics around the world is often quite dirty, and I think it's even worse in Nigeria. And so, people of credibility are very reluctant, and I'm very reluctant actually. But I think what it takes to fix it is for a critical mass of people to come in together. And so it's not just one person out there standing alone. There have to be a lot of us going in together in the political parties, elective offices, as advisors, as supporters, as campaign group participants. So there are actually many opportunities to be involved. So yeah, I still can't exactly say to you that this is exactly where I'm going to get involved, but I have one or two areas and ideas of where to start. I mean, but one of them doesn't include running for office at this point. I have no intention of running for office in the short term, right?
Okay.
Maybe long term, perhaps, but in the short term, I have no intention of running for office. But I'm considering joining a party, and but I'm keen to serve as an advisor to some of the people who are in that space and to participate in the background. For now, I'm content to be in the background,
Mm.
providing advice, support. Maybe if I get invited to an appointed position, I might consider that. But I think the first thing will just be to get involved in my community, both where I live, that's in Lagos, and my home community back in Abia State, and start, joining together with opinion leaders, in community leadership, and starting one step at a time. But I think the solution is a critical mass of people, critical mass of good people involved together. I think that's where the solution will start from.
I love that. I love that. Oluwakemi, you can take over from here. I don't have anything to say to
All
that.
right. Thank you so much, Mr. Kelechi. Just recently, we were taught this topic, conflict of interest by the Madam Due Process herself.
Yes.
And it was a really deep and expatiative topic. I want to ask you that as we are trained to gun for the common good of, in your own opinion, personal opinion, what can you define as conflict of interest? What is your thought on the subject matter? Please kindly state it with examples.
Yeah. So yeah, the class with Dr. Obi a few days ago was a good one. In the course of my business, I've had to deal with the conflict of interest a bit. In fact, I actually have someone who's like a consultant for my office who I often would consult to get clarity on issues that could be conflict of interest. So in my office, we've had opportunity to work with a few multinational organizations, and I think I've been quite inspired, quite challenged by observing their processes. Right. In most organizations in Nigeria, you think that knowing somebody inside or being related to somebody inside should be an advantage. But you find that sometimes with relating to some of these companies, knowing somebody inside can be a disadvantage, or at least it's not an advantage really, because I had this opportunity where there was a project that we were invited to participate in. So we're having a presentation, like a pitch, and the woman who was anchoring the meeting turned out to be my in-law. Actually, I didn't even know her before that meeting, but I'd heard about her. So typically, I'll Google my clients and say, okay, after a meeting, I'll just Google the name and say, who's this person? Then as I saw some things online, I turned to my wife and say, wait, that's your cousin who works in so oil and gas company. What's her name? And she mentioned the name. I was like, that's the person who just shared the panel that I just presented to. So ordinarily, that should mean I should get favorably considered, right? But when I reached out to the lady, I said, I didn't even know you were so person. And we exchanged pleasantries. But guess what? She had to recuse herself from further participation in that engagement. Eventually, we still won the work, but it wasn't because we knew her. Because knowing her meant she had to step aside. In fact, there was even somebody else on that team who also had some relationship with me that also had to step aside. So everybody who knew me was kind of like stepping aside, ensuring that our evaluation was very objective. I thought that for me was quite exemplary, and
Yeah.
so that began to impress in my mind. When you're trying to make decisions in different spaces, you need to be objective. So hearing Madam Obi's class, and also talking about how important it is in leadership in Nigeria, I kind of understood that truly it's quite important that leaders in government take this idea of conflict of interest quite seriously, because it really compromises decision making, the objectivity of decision making. So I think it's important that conflict of interest is addressed, so that we give first priority to the group that we are either obligated to represent, and not have our own personal interest get in the way. So that's my
Hmm.
view. I think it's a topic, and I enjoyed it actually. But it's
Solution.
not
Thank
always
you
easy,
very
I
much.
must admit. Not always easy.
It isn't.
Yes.
It is not. In fact, I'm so impressed by the story you know. When she was saying that one of the, now I can resonate, I can put a picture to it. Now I can understand it better, that this thing is actually achievable. Because when she was saying, there are some things that you hear theoretically or you read and like, is it possible? The example you just mentioned has done justice to. So the next question is going to be a bit personal. And the reason why I have the effrontery to ask that question is because it is online. And internet does not forget anything. And apart from that, it has blessed, because I read the comments under Chudit's interview with you. I could see that it has blessed a lot of lives. Now, the question, in all fairness, I respect you because I could see that you are phenomenal. How you were able to smoothly transition from your pain to a beautiful family life that you have now is highly, I know it's God's grace, and it is highly commendable. And for me, charity begins at home. For me, it is a very good example of team spirit, as in how you were able to do that, with the in-laws, with that. And for Balkis, maybe you're just getting to know. I would like Mr. Kelechi to please expatiate on what it was like for you when you experienced such a huge, irreplaceable pain, and how you were able to transition. And the reason why that caught my attention is the fact no matter the governance, if you are in the system, you will transition smoothly, as in, because family is the major thing, and if one is able to win the battles at home, every other place is just at the tip of the
Very
fingers.
easy.
So for
Yeah.
you to be able to do, I many minutes, I know you have a lot to say. You can summarize it. I know you are very good at that. But it is very important that while you're answering this question, it's a message for someone out there that is going through what you have been through, and is wondering, how can I trust? There are major factors to consider. No matter we Nigerian and Nigerian, Africans and Africans, there are some things that we're still. And this is a huge loss. So how were you able to transition, that governing system, your governing council of your own, to what you now have beautiful?
So what I would say is a mixture of different things, and part of it I would say I'll say there was God's grace, and I would say that because there were a number of things that had they been different, it may have been a much more difficult journey. So I see you've really done a lot of research, Kemi. I had no clue the questions were going to places like this. I was expecting political questions mainly, but it's fine. Like you said, it's already in the public space, and it's something I don't have problems talking about. Quite honestly, I don't. So I think when you're someone who is very purpose driven, in the sense that there are things that you're committed to achieving, there are things you're committed to doing, things you're committed to in accomplishing. This was an unexpected twist in my life. Right? It was an unexpected twist. So, first of all, there was the journey. I lost my first wife to breast cancer. So, there was the journey through cancer. And, during that time, I was still running a business. I was still doing things like that. It was tough, but I think that somehow I just had maybe it's I think my faith is also something that played a key role, because somehow I was determined not an object of pity, right? Where people be looking at you and be like, yeah, and I'd seen an aunt who lost her husband many years past, and it was as if her life was just completely derailed. She couldn't pick herself up. So I was one of those people who always believe that even if I meet obstacles along the way, I should pick myself up and keep moving, and pick myself up and stay strong. So when this tragedy, was when I came when eventually after 3 years, I lost my wife to that battle to cancer. I just knew that I had to pick myself up. I was just like, you know what, I'm not going to be an object of pity. I'm not going to be that person who everybody's thinking, well, what could have been, and so on. I was keen on that. And so I wanted to be able to pick my life back up and not be somebody who is like in a disadvantaged position. I had young children at the time. I was also mindful of not making a wrong decision that could put the children in jeopardy. So I realized that this was going to be, the steps I was going to take were going to be very crucial. But talking about the management of the home, I would say that it helped. It helped that I had a fantastic relationship with my in-laws. It helped because if I didn't have that, it would have been a much more difficult situation. it helped that we had very stable support at home. Like the nanny that had been with us from the birth of my first child was still the same nanny at that time, and is still the same nanny till today, 15 years after. So I've had the same nanny for 15 years. And it helped also that I had a cousin who had moved in with us when my second child about was like a year old, and had been with us at this time, had been with us for about 7 years or so. So having those two people in the house that already understood how things were and how everything was run in the house helped me, because it was going to be difficult for me to transition from being a partner in a home to now being the only person running everything in the family. So that was tough. So the first stage was just trying to stabilize the home. My mother-in-law was super kind, fantastic woman. So she came, almost moved in. She was living with us. I mean, we won't say living with us, but she was spending, at least for the first year after, she spent a lot of time in our home, just helping to give stability. So I owe it to those three people, the stability they gave me, which allowed me to still stay focused on my work, and then also allowed me to open my mind to the possibility of moving on, because I didn't quite like that setup where, right, it was as though this was not the way my house was run before, right? Everybody seemed to have an opinion about how things should be run. My sister would call and want to give her opinion. My mother would call, my mother-in-law would also, so I just had aunties and different people who were giving unsolicited advice. I just didn't really like. I'm not somebody who likes to be at the mercy of other people's guidance. I just wanted to, have my own privacy and have my thing run well. So I was keen to move on when the dust had settled. I was keen to do that. And it so happened that I met someone, that it clicked instantly. I didn't even need to start thinking, could it be this person? Could it be that person? It was just one person I met, and things ironed out so perfectly, like, she was God sent. So, but then when I had made up my mind that I was going to get remarried, I also needed to be very tactful in engaging my in-laws. I still had a fantastic relationship with them. My mother-in-law was still spending a lot of time in my house at that time. It had just been like a year and a half since my wife's passing. No, actually, a year and some months after, right? And so I was trying to be very tactful in engaging them, and I sought counsel. I met people who had been through the shoes before, sought their advice, and got some guidance. And then one of the things they told me was that, look, when you're going through something like this, many people would misread your actions, many people would misunderstand you, and they could also be very judgmental of the person you're considering getting married to. But most of them don't understand where the shoes pinch. But something that I was advised to be very helpful is create an opportunity for them to meet the person. Because many times we judge somebody we have not met. But when you meet the person and get an opportunity to see the person's character firsthand, then it makes you more relaxed. So at the time, my wife, who I was, then courting at that time, I created opportunity for her to meet different people, including my mother-in-law, meaning the mother of my late wife, and some other key family members, to meet the children and those stakeholders. And everybody who met her just kind of melted. So that again too kind of made it easier. So it wasn't a very easy journey. I'm saying it simply, but it wasn't as smooth as I'm making it sound. However, I would say that I'm glad I took that step. I have no regrets about it, and yeah, things have kind of fallen back to normal. The new normal. So that's that in a nutshell. But if you have more specific questions, I'll answer more.
So much, Mr. Kelechi, for accepting me and for doing justice to that. You said some key words. Number one, you had to go to the people that been there before, and that is what you're doing right. This podcast is not limited to only SPPG hearers. It is going to be published on our YouTube page. Anybody can just, how people can be with their system. They can just pass through something, and this could be it for them. So thank you very much for sharing a very deep and precious part of your life with us and with every other person that will be listening afterwards. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So I yield the floor to.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I want to say that it was really brave of you. I think there was something I picked from that conversation, that was being in tune with God. Your faith has to be strong. And there is something I always tell myself, that at whatever level of success anyone finds me, they will never be able to attribute it to their usual understanding of luck. A number of people might have looked at you like, oh, you are lucky that happened, and then, you are here now, bouncing around and all of that. But this conversation actually showed that this is not luck. This was carefully planned, carefully walked, a journey that you did not map alone. You mapped with God. You mapped with precision. You mapped it with counsel, because there is something that I've always also learned, that you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone. Either do it with God and do it with humans, because God is going to actually walk through humans. He's not coming down from heaven to come and tell you, okay, let you do it like this. He's going to make sure that you show up to the right people that would give you the right counsel. So I think that is one particular thing I learned from this. Do it with God, do it with faith that He's not going to lead you wrong, and He's going to give you those people that will make it easier for you to transition part time. So thank you so much for sharing. I didn't know what that question meant when I saw the question, but then now I get it, and I'm glad and I'm super excited that I'm doing this with you, Oluwakemi. Let me give you your flowers again. Every single time I say, Mama, let's do it like this, the next thing is I hear this voice notes all excited. I can listen to her the whole day. So thank you so much for always being a backbone, a mother, a friend, and everything that makes this work, because I wouldn't have done it without you guys,
Thank you.
and it wouldn't have been easy being on this space without you people actually making sure that whatever ideas this little brain can bring together, it works. So I think that you have answered the next question, which is, are you running for political office? You said not right now and all of that. But let me ask the question. If you are going to finally run for office, either as an appointed, position or whatever, we are told that politics is all about service. We know that politics is all about service. Right now, Nigeria do not have that thing with politics that has to do with service. My question is, if you get there, as a person that has been groomed, trained, and understand the place of service in tuning the world in the way it should go, what are your top three agendas?
Okay, so that question of top three would probably depend on the office,
Okay.
right? So, but let me just make it generic and maybe answer something that will cut across. I'm someone who's very passionate about integrity, right? People meaning what they say and saying what they mean. Um, I'm really very pained about the level of corruption in Nigeria. So one of the things I would really love to do is to fight corruption. I know it's a difficult fight, and I think one of the ways would be to try to ensure that there are a lot of other people of integrity who come into different systems of government. Try to get in as many people as possible of proven character, competence, and capacity in positions. So building a very strong team will be very high priority. Building a very, very strong team in very, very key positions, and also encouraging people who are in those positions to also build strong teams. So that way we have a lot of people who share these values. And after that, I would also be passionate about building systems, because you don't want our country to be completely dependent on just good people coming into office. You want to create a system that even bad people find difficult to do evil. So I'll be very keen to put in place laws, legislation, processes that tighten the control in different areas, in procurement, in due process, in, across multiple organizations. Some of the classes we had recently, we're talking about when Madam Obi talks about the things Obasanjo did. It's just a pity that most of the governments after him haven't really been as committed to excellence in that way, or at least to system building. So I'll be very passionate about that, about system building. Then another thing I would like to do, then there are many, many things I would like to do. Honestly, it's difficult to even give top three priorities, but this first two, maybe fighting corruption, placing prioritizing competence and integrity in positions, and maybe deprioritizing, where you're from, and just prioritizing competence. Of course, you have to reflect federal character in your decisions, otherwise you might be misunderstood. But I would be keen to ensure that the government is inclusive. Young, old, men, women, people from different parts of the country. Just so everybody gets to feel that this Nigeria is ours. So I'm sounding as if it's presidency I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
But even if it's at another tier of government, it's the same approach that I would like to bring to build strong teams, have a very inclusive government. If we were to do some kind of questionnaire across all Nigerians, you might find out that the level of love for Nigeria is very low. It's very low. Very few people are willing to die for Nigeria. The reason is obvious. There's not enough to love Nigeria for, right? In fact, many of us feel committed to Nigeria because it's the place of our birth, not because we have the fondest memories for which we should be committed to the nation, unlike it is in some other countries. So we need to try to create a Nigeria that would make Nigerians proud to be associated with it. Just trying to find ways to make people proud to be a part of this country because the country is fair to them, right? Make government institutions friendly, right? You're going to do your passport, you're going to do your driver's license, you're going to get this permit or that permit. It will be important that the government institutions are made to be customer friendly, as it were. The Nigerians are the customers who pay the taxes that keep them. So they should be treating us like customers and not treating us like they're doing us a favor. So I would like all the different institutions that interface with government at every level to treat the citizens with respect. I mean, I'm sure we've all experienced situations where we've been disrespected in government institutions where people act like they're doing us a favor. But I would like government to be seen as being there to help and not being there to, for their own personal interest. So I think that would be that in a nutshell. There's still so many things with a country like ours. You can go all day talking about the things that need change, but this one would be among the ones I'll be high in my priority.
That was beautiful. And I love the fact that you have something very key on your agenda because we all rise and fall to the level of our systems. So no matter the infrastructure, as long as there are no systems in place to maintain it. And I love something that you said, that we cannot bank on the fact that it's only good people that can do the work. We've got to make sure that there are systems in place that makes it even hard for the bad ones to corrupt the system. And then there was something you said about continuity too, so that when there are systems in place, the structure for continuity actually goes on. I love that. I love that. I love that. And I want to say thank you for taking this. This is about 40 something minutes. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I am going to leave the floor for Oluwakemi for our parting words, and then she's going to transfer that to you, and we can call it a day on today's episode of TAP.
All right, thank you. So when
Thank you.
Mr. Kelechi was talking, he did mention being patriotic, that's one of the things that is going to promote. I was guilty before, so I was this kind of person that I would be English and everything, dressing English. But for our wonderful ex-president, Olusegun Obasanjo, I remember that it was during his tenure that he promoted Ankara as a fabric. Now we have people that do parties and they can tell you the dress code is Ankara. Before, it had to be lace. It had to be something very expensive. So it was trying to promote, it had to be imported laces, Swiss lace, this one lace. But he promoted Ankara, the fabric Ankara. He also promoted the Kampala that is being produced at Abeokuta and many other made in Nigeria products. And I love, although she's late now, I would love to give my late doctor one of the clips that was recorded of her where she was insisting, and you will see that passion there when she was saying that, let's be saying God bless Nigeria. Let's be, I say, wow. So we say have people like this. For people that are very close to me, they know that I'm talking about this country. I'm not jackpotting anywhere. Nigeria will hail thee. I'm proud in Nigeria. You will see it on my outfit. You will see it anywhere. You will see the sign of my name on my name, that this one now proper Yoruba. The only thing that remains is that they forgot to give me tribal marks. And I thank God. So I want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for granting our invitation. We really appreciate it. Such an honor. It's been a wonderful experience with you, listening to your words. You are deep. So I was correct when I said, this man looks like a man with depth.
Thank you for this opportunity. I've enjoyed it as well. Like I said earlier on, I didn't expect this interview to go in the direction it's gone, but I like the authenticity. I think I've loved that authenticity. I tried to call Kemi earlier in the week just to get a sense of, what it was going to be about. Now, maybe I'm glad we didn't have that call because I kind of like the surprise and the authenticity. So yeah, thank you. And yeah, I did ask Kemi why me, and then she said at the beginning, and that was before Bakis joined. She said, "I sense you're deep." I was a bit taken aback when she said that because I know that's true, and I was a bit surprised that I was just wondering how she could have figured that out. But I see she done some research, so I'm sure the research may have given you some clues. But I'm really glad to have done this. And Kemi, I'm quite happy to hear you're not buying anywhere because that's a passion I've also shared for many years. And so
Thank
I've gone through a phase where a lot of people I know have left. So I'm looking for people who are not going. So at least we know those of us who are left here. So I'm glad to hear that from you. Balkis, I don't know if you're planning to Japa or if you're here with us too. So let's know
Yeah,
how many of us are still here. And those
yeah,
who will be
yeah.
visiting when we travel. Are you among those who will be visiting in town or
No.
those who will be visiting when we're
Mm-mm.
traveling?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. But let me say that one of the things that, like I mentioned earlier, like coming to SPPG was a bit of a tough decision for me, partly because when I was initially recommended by a friend, I didn't at the time know what the time demand would be. But even I was thinking to be like maybe once a week or twice a week. And even with that, I was already wondering how I would do it when I came for the orientation, the matriculation rather, and they were saying 4 days a week. Actually, I was a bit upset. I was like, what sort of nonsense is that? How is that possible? What's the meaning of that? And then you must do 95. I was like, who does that? I left the meeting a bit angry. I went through the acculturization program, not sure I will complete this program. I was like, let me just finish the acculturization first and just see if I can push through, then maybe. So every day I come to acculturization, I'll be like, okay, let's be watching. Let's see the 1 year doing this. Let's see. But the interesting thing is that I haven't just participated, but I've ended up being a leader in my capstone group and in my COP, right? But one of the things that pushed me to get this involved in the SCPG was the opportunity to meet people. So for me, that was part of the attraction, that I'll have the opportunity to get to meet people. So I'm delighted that, at least I have two people I can now add to my list of people who I've had contact with in the course of this program. So I'm glad to have met both of you, Kemi and
thank you.
Balkis. Kemi always lightens
Thank
up our
you.
class with a beautiful smile, and the smile is even more beautiful in this session. I mean, I don't know how you're doing it, but thank you. Thank you for being that gift. Thank you. Balkis, I think you're one of the quieter people in our class. Until you buzzed me, I had to like, who is this person, right? I think she's one of those silent operators. So meeting people like you makes me
Yeah.
realize that there's a lot of depth in SCPG,
Yeah.
even amongst the people who are not asking questions in class, who are just quiet, but they're just so much. And I think that's really what SPG is about, bringing us together so that we can be strong together and strong for each other as we put hands together to build our nation, to make a difference in Nigeria. At least now I know I have people I can reach out to, who, by God's grace, will be aligned in terms of values, in terms of focus, in terms of vision, in terms of understanding of what is necessary to make our country a better place. So I'm very grateful that you've invited me, and thank you so much for what you're doing in our Wakilomo group. I'll tell my people at the Mayaka Nation, you guys are doing a great job. Thank you very much.
But I want to say thank you to every single person who should be spending their time with their families, but takes the time to come share, the depth of their knowledge on the Our Kid More podcast. Every single time we have these sessions, I leave, the session filled with that understanding that whatever it is we are going through right now in Nigeria, it's just a phase. With we being here, with our crop of leaders, with our crop of young people, with the kind of people that we are, it's just a matter of time. It just needs, that push. It's just a very little push that we need. And we are going to get it right. So I am grateful that you took the time, that you took the effort to find a quiet place, to tell the kids, you know what, that is going to be on an interview. Please, just be silent for the meantime. And, your wife was like, okay, you know what, they're going to be silent. Your interview is going to go smooth. No problem. No issues. Everybody aligned. Thank you. We are grateful. Mama, thank you so much for always showing up.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening to us and spending your time with us, spending your life with us to us. So thank you very much. It's because of you that we are still where we are today, that we are encouraged to keep doing this podcast from time to time. Anytime we read your reviews, anytime we see your thumbs up. So please do not forget to give us thumbs up, give us feedback, because feedback is the food of champions, and we really love feedback. So thank you very much for having us again. And
Yes, thank you so much, guys, for joining this episode, for watching through, for listening through this episode of the Awo Kilumo podcast. And we remain the duo from the Awo Kilumo Nation, the Community of Practice 19 of the School of Politics, Policy and Governance class of 2020. From all of us at the Awo Kilumo Nation, we say thank you for listening to our podcast, for saying thank you to our hosts, and for saying thank you to our guests. And until the next time we get to speak, thank you and keep being the unconventional leader that you've been born to be.